We can easily forget the challenges that had been faced by those who came before us. A civilization that sparked in recent decades. But staring at the history of ancient Greece, we realize that Greek mythology is a broad collection of gods, goddesses, monsters, warriors, legends, and on top of that, fools. And that was all part of their daily lives in ancient times. Anyway, it also has its secrets and an unimaginable lifestyle and beliefs where you need a medic and you don't even have that option. Instead of that, you have to jump from a hill to let that sickness go. So if you want to answer why they do so, don't skip any part of the video. For a moment, suppose you travel back in time to ancient Greece, where you have to live like you don't know what art, philosophy, and democracy is. However, our archaeologist experts tell us the tales of the Pantheon, the time of gods and goddesses, though they seemed normal human beings but with natural superpowers. But Greek mythologies represent quite different tales from their religions, though both are connected. Somehow but are not on the same page. Honestly, there are so many horrible facts that if you imagine your life leading according to those laws and culture, you definitely couldn't survive life in ancient Greece. What those laws and cultural customs were, let's hop in it together and find these terrible, deadly facts. But before hopping in, hit on the subscribe button for more fascinating videos. Well, their journey started with an illiterate and ignorant of scientific knowledge. Do you know how? If you felt not good, you had to go to the doctor for a checkup, but this is for today, thousands of years back in time. When you felt sick, people were not supposed to visit a doctor. Instead of that, they hid their sickness as it was a top secret. But why did they do so? The question arises in many minds, even if they are not curious. It was considered essential that if any person got sick, they considered it as a god's wrath. If one came over the sickness, it was fine, but the other option was so horrible. If the person couldn't get fit, he had no other option but to jump from a hill, as he had no right to live against the god's will. According to the ancient Greeks, God made them sick, they were weak, and to end the wrath of gods, they had to end their lives. That was the reason why they kept their sickness to themselves. Moreover, if unluckily anyone denied any deity or god's existence, he had to face reprisals from the god or other mortals. However, as opposed to this, if one chose the motions of piety, he had fewer risks throughout his life. He also was free from performing the ritual of orthodoxy. It was a religious abstraction, incomprehensible to the ancient people. However, the history of ancient Greece seems like a total mess, and anthologies of peculiarity. Your mouth would get wide open when you listen to one of the most annoying and deadly facts about medicines and surgeries. According to ancient people, no one can get a medic when you get sick until you are wounded. However, it also was essential to be wounded in a war. If the injury was not caused by war but accidentally by falling from a height or something like that, there was no concept of getting a cure, but waiting for your death by lying on your deathbed. Yeah, surprised? Well, it has been a proven fact, though. Only one can get to a medic if they're injured, but still being fine was not enough, as the doctors were not even allowed to do surgeries on the injured part of their body. It was a common thought that bodies were given by gods, and if we did any surgeries on them, gods would be angry and they would punish them. Many people died of their deadly injuries because of severe infections, and imagine how much pain they bore to their end. Hey, you curious eyes! Mold your eyes, as the story didn't end here, but more surprises are yet to come. Have you ever heard of being sick and your doctor asking you to sleep in a temple to watch out for your dream? And then he will announce what your sickness is all about. Even doctors will tell you whether you're sick or all fine. Yeah, according to ancient history, the patients were taken to shrines and temples. They thought the soul of the human being was given by God, and they couldn't give any medicine to the body. In shrines where they slept and whatever the dreams they had, they told the temple priests. Those priests deduced what their dreams meant to be and told you how you have to act according to what they would assume. They would refer you to a cure or treatment, or if they told you of being healthy, in that case, you have to act accordingly even if you're not well. Doctors of ancient Greece didn't know how to treat any disease. However, they had some ritual deeds to perform for better health. If you remember, in one of our videos, we discovered how a heavy wall and columns were built, and what engineering was used to build Nan Madol, an ancient man-made island. The total weight of the stones was about 750,000 tons, and it was built on the coral reef. Until the present day, our experts in archaeology are still speechless about how they manage this much weight without having any special powers. In the same way, our experts couldn't find a proper satisfying answer to how those so-called doctors of ancient Greece turned into the real ones. Maybe the reason behind this would be Socrates, as he was executed for his discoveries and work. His esoteric knowledge was beyond the acceptance of the people of ancient Greece, as they consider the body a noble gift from gods, and no one can harm it through surgeries or operations. With such mythologies, how one could live in ancient Greece where no technology, no advancement, and no science behind the medical problems, but just religion and false beliefs beyond the sense, sounds crazy and horrible. Could you live such a life in ancient Greece with such an absence of modern medical care and trauma treatment? I can bet, of course, not. But this was not sufficient for them. Routine quarrels, wars, and conflicts were very common happenings at that time. You can live a peaceful life with some little issues or conflicts, but a constant fight will make you crazy and turn your normal behavior towards a wild life. And this was quite normal out there in ancient Greece. War was their pride, and they began to start the training of fighting for their kids at such a young age. Athens and Olympia were the big centers of their training, where they had their most holy Olympian god, Zeus, in the temple of Athens at the center of the city. He was worshipped for his power and was considered the most powerful god. However, when one returns from the war injured, they treat him. If he got well, he was thought to be a noble soul. But in another case, if the injured one couldn't get healthy soon in some specific time, he would be considered a sinner whom God wouldn't accept. So he must have hopped from the hill, as we have discovered this myth was a common religious ritual among the people of ancient Greece. In this way, calmness and peace were a dream life for them, and especially their women also had limited freedom. So they cannot raise their voices against violence and terrorism. Also, the constant threats of wars and physical fitness for full time would be tough and impossible. Limited freedom of expression and thought, and lack of intellectual freedom are the basic reasons that cause imagining surviving life in ancient Greece for today's people who have all freedom, scientific causes, self-ruling, and democracy must be hard. We have always brought fascinating and the most attention-grabbing facts for you. So, give us your reviews on which part of the video was more unbelievable. Talking about wars and the medical condition of the people of ancient Greece, a question arises in mind. What did they eat for their firmness on the battlefield and to joy their gods? What diet options did they have? Well, when we dug deep into the grounds, we realized that they had a limited diet option on their tables. Even in the 15th century, some most common veggies and fruits, such as potatoes, bananas, peppers, and tomatoes, were not introduced in ancient Greece. Garlic, leeks, and asparagus were the common vegetables there, and many vegetables were used in soups, mashed or boiled and cooked with olive oil or vinegar. Radishes, cabbages, turnips, and lettuce were the optimum vegetables of wealthy families. On the other hand, poor people used to consume dried vegetables. Doesn't it sound pitiful? Imagine people who struggle hard for their good living, leading wars, demonstrating civilization, and taking pride in being on battlefields always. What did they eat? Or you could say, what options did they have? It is not only pitiful but also sounds crazy. What kind of people were they? A question approaches the mind itself. If you imagine this limited diet in ancient Greece, I believe you wouldn't survive, or at least your taste buds would have died. Oh, I am not talking funny but being factful. I hope we have shared some dreadful facts with you about the people of ancient Greece. They lived a hard and unimaginable life throughout their times. How do they survive with such limited options in life? Maybe, as they say, life is a beautiful lie, and death is the dark truth. This seems to explain this quote very well. With too few options, the hardest battlefields, the worst medical conditions, life-killing religious customs, and bounded diet options, it all sounds like a nightmare to today's generation. When you watch the video, you would think for once they were crazy or what? How can life survive in such critical circumstances? But it seems it did survive. A fact. Give a thumbs up to the living legends of ancient Greece and how they survive. Be grateful for what you have today. As you know, you wouldn't survive life in ancient Greece. Stay factful and stay safe. Until we take you to the next amazing story,